forcing everyone who looks too closely at this case to feel that icy shiver of realization that maybe, just maybe, these women weren't paranoid at all. Maybe they were speaking the truth. Maybe they were trying to warn the world of something bigger than themselves. And when you trace back the years, you see Brittany as she once was. A bright star in the early 2000s, delivering iconic performances in films like Clueless, 8 Mile, and JustMarried, adored by fans, praised by critics, a true Hollywood darling. But behind the scenes, her life had already started to unravel, entangled in toxic relationships, questionable friendships, and the suffocating pressure of an industry that devours the weak. And by 2009, when the Los Angeles Fire Department responded to the emergency call from her Hollywood Hills home, it was already too late. Brittany was found unresponsive, her husband's frantic attempts to save her proving useless. Her body rushed to CedarsSinai Medical Center, where she tragically went into cardiac arrest. And the official cause of death was ruled pneumonia combined with anemia and multiple substance intoxication. A conclusion that at first glance seemed straightforward, even boring, a tidy explanation that let the world move on. But the truth is, nothing about Brittany's death was tidy, because the details kept contradicting themselves. The timeline made little sense, and almost immediately fans, investigators, and even her own father began asking uncomfortable questions, questions that the official story couldn't answer. Questions that grew louder when her husband Simon Monjack himself died in the exact same house, from the exact same causes, less than 6 months later. A twist so chilling it felt scripted by a screenwriter of horror. And yet it was real life. 2 deaths in one home, both ruled pneumonia and anemia, both shrouded in rumors of mold, poisoning, and cover-ups. And the deeper you look, the stranger it gets, because Simon, a man surrounded by allegations of fraud, manipulation, and deceit, didn't want an autopsy performed on Brittany at all, trying to block it until the coroner overruled him. And even after the autopsy, his statements contradicted the evidence, insisting that Brittany had only been taking harmless herbal remedies and cough syrup, while the coroner's report suggested multiple substances were in her system. And then there was Brittany's mother Sharon, who stood by Simon's side, repeating his claims, defending him publicly, even moving in with him after her daughter's death in a way that many found disturbing, because whispers soon emerged that Sharon and Simon's relationship had crossed uncomfortably blurred lines, a theory that only fueled suspicions that any... And so the mystery does not end with Brittany's sudden collapse on the bathroom floor of her Hollywood Hills home, because if anything, that moment was just the beginning of a far more sinister story, one that stretches into the secret corridors of Hollywood power, linking Brittany not only to her controlling husband and enabling mother, but to men whose names carry enough weight to terrify even seasoned investigators. And at the center of those whispered names stands Sean "Diddy" Combs, a man long surrounded by rumors of violence, manipulation, and ritualistic parties that blur the line between entertainment and something far darker. And standing beside him in this twisted narrative is Ashton Kutcher, the charming sitcom actor turned tech mogul who once held Brittany's hand in public, kissed her under paparazzi flashes, and then, when her life ended under the most suspicious of circumstances, said almost nothing, disappearing into silence that many fans found not just strange, but incriminating. Because silence, when paired with power, often speaks louder than words, and what investigators, journalists, and conspiracy theorists alike began piecing together was a tapestry woven with eerie coincidences, overlapping connections, and chilling testimonies that suggest Brittany Murphy may have been yet another casualty in a web of control, secrecy, and silenced truths that Hollywood has perfected for decades. A web that also entangled KimPorter, who, like Brittany, was vibrant, beautiful, and full of life before she too was found lifeless with pneumonia listed on her death certificate. A diagnosis that on its surface seems natural until you recall the whispered confessions she made to friends. Confessions about fearing for her safety, about believing she was being watched, about planning to write a tell-all book that could have dismantled reputations and careers, a book that never saw the light of day because KimPorter never lived long enough to finish it. And here the parallels grow chillingly close, because Brittany too allegedly told friends in her final weeks that she believed someone was poisoning her. that she refused to eat certain foods or drink from certain glasses, that she was convinced powerful people wanted her gone. And when you consider that both women died within a decade of each other, both tied to Diddy, directly or indirectly, both silenced before they could reveal what they knew, the coincidences start to feel more like calculated moves in a game most of us will never be allowed to see. A game where celebrities are pawns, power is currency, and lives are expendable when the wrong secrets slip through. And when you trace Brittany's connection to this world, you find Ashton Kutcher standing at the doorway. The man she dated after meeting on the set of Just Married in 2002, a relationship that was playful, affectionate, and by all accounts genuine, but which ended abruptly after only 5 months with Ashton allegedly cheating on her with DemiMoore. A betrayal that many fans dismissed as Hollywood drama until later, when Ashton's name began appearing in stories about Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, events whispered about in hushed tones where celebrities, models, and industry insiders were said to gather for nights that crossed the boundaries of morality, legality, and sanity. Nights where people were allegedly drugged, exploited, filmed without consent, and used as pawns in a power ritual that bound them to silence through fear and blackmail. And while these claims sound like the plot of a thriller, multiple witnesses over the years have described similar scenarios, painting Ashton not as a bystander, but as a participant, one who enjoyed Diddy's inner circle perks, one who benefited from proximity to the mogul's influence. And if Brittany, through her relationship with Ashton, was exposed to even a glimpse of this world, it would explain her sudden paranoia, her refusal to eat or drink freely, her belief that she was being poisoned because maybe she saw something she wasn't supposed to, maybe she overheard conversations that spelled doom for anyone who leaked them, maybe she connected dots about Ashton and Diddy that terrified her, and maybe that terror wasn't irrational, but the clarity of a woman realizing she had stumbled into a dangerous game where the stakes were her own survival. And when you factor in that Ashton himself has been linked to another tragic Hollywood death, that of Ashley Ellerin, the young woman he was supposed to pick up for a date in 2001, but who was brutally murdered in her home by the Hollywood ripper Michael Gargiulo, a case in which Ashton testified years later, you begin to see a disturbing pattern of women connected to him meeting violent or suspicious ends, a pattern that raises questions about how much Ashton knew, how much he saw, and how much he has chosen never to say. Questions that grow louder when you realize how quickly he went silent about Britt. But the story of Brittany Murphy's death and the disturbing shadows surrounding it does not simply end with whispered connections to Diddy, Ashton Kutcher, and Hollywood's secret parties, because in the years that followed her passing, the cries for justice only grew louder, pulling in not only tabloid journalists and grieving fans, but investigators, private labs, and even federal agencies. As more and more people began to question how such a vibrant 32-year-old could collapse and die from pneumonia and anemia in a city with world-class hospitals, and why her husband would die the exact same way only months later, and why every attempt to investigate deeper was blocked, delayed, or conveniently dismissed, because those unanswered questions are not just coincidences. They are red flags, flashing warnings that something was never right about this case. And when Brittany's father, AngeloBertolotti, stepped forward to challenge the official narrative, he ignited a firestorm that has refused to burn out.